Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Monday morning Smart Networker call. My name is Dave Rolfe, and today is February the 14th. It's Valentine's Day, so happy Valentine's Day to everyone. And it happens to be my wedding anniversary today, so happy anniversary to Dave. And this was done so I wouldn't forget. When did you get married, Dave? God, when was that? Yeah, all right, Valentine's Day. Anyway, so got all that stuff done and taken care of. Yesterday was Super Bowl, and today we've got another interesting presentation. After last week's event, um, came up with another idea. I think you'll enjoy this one. This one's going to be really good for a new prospect, and getting things underway and getting things started. So let me share my screen, and then we'll get the presentation underway. And then, as usual, after we'll have our Q&A. Okay, so let's shrink this guy up here. And as you come in, if you just mute your call, that would be great. This is from our frequently asked questions on building a Nikken business. This is a great series because it allows us to get into the nitty-gritty brass tacks of what's really going on. So this is question number 5. What's the best way to present Nikken? Now, the answer here is simple. You want to present a solution, but the key is to a solution to what? And in this presentation today, I'm going to provide you many views of what needs to be done, and I will also provide additional videos to watch that go along with the presentation that relate to the specific topics and will add more significance to what's being talked about. So enjoy the presentation. Remember, if you need my help, please contact me because I do love to help. So if I look back at everyone who ever came into the business of Nikken or bought a product for that matter, it was done for a reason. And for the most part, that reason had been to solve some kind of a problem, an issue, the desire, a circumstance, a need, or a want, and that had yet to be solved, but which needed a solution that either the product or the business provided. So it was pretty straightforward A to B kind of stuff. Now, if we define a problem in the dictionary, it's an intricate, unsettled question. It's a source of perplexity, distress, or vexation, a question raised for solution. Therefore, all of the above situations could be a sort of a problem if not resolved. And there are a number of things that we do with a problem. We could ignore it. Okay, some people have problems, they just ignore them and don't deal with them. We could hide from them, and we could avoid dealing with them, and or we can go out and solve it. But the key to the latter part of solving them is to have the know-how or the wherewithal, and of course, or the knowledge of a workable potential solution. So if we take, for example, someone who gets really sick and starts looking for something to resolve the issue, or someone whose plumbing stops working and needs it to work, or someone who loses their job and needs an income. Now, all of these situations kind of explain that concept of a problem that needs a solution. However, not all problems get solved. And, we will avoid dealing with them sometimes. We'll run away from them, hide from them. And if we can't resolve it or think of a solution. And this is why this business is so great. See, we find and confront specific problems and then present a solution. So one can understand what can be done to resolve it and get excited to do so. So someone who is sick and tired about dealing with a problem or issue and really wants to do something is the perfect candidate to join you in business. But the key to this is understanding what that is for that individual, not your problem, but theirs. So the "hi John, hey, I had a broken toe and I got involved with the business" kind of, and "would you like to join me" kind of a question is typically not going to work, as it doesn't address any known problem that John might have. Therefore, before you ask the question, you want to find out if there is a problem that needs solving. Now, in my research, and I highly suggest that you do the same, you want to know what's going on in your society, and what are the issues people are having, and what might be a problem, a challenge, a desire, or a need, or a want. These are key questions that you want answers to. So, and when you know this stuff, those answers, then you can create that solution that best fits what you find or what you hear from the person that you're speaking with. Then you won't get tongue-tied in making your solution presentation. Now, basically, you're looking for someone that needs to change. And because you listen to the answer they give you, present the possibility of a solution that fits. And that's big, bold, the circumstance you uncover. Remember, everyone is different. But the common denominator is money, then health, then help and support. And these are the areas that I would focus on when I asked the question I wanted answers to. You know, when you find someone that wants help and needs a change, then together you go out and build their business. Now, I have 6 case studies of this from my own experience, and I'm going to draw from a couple to explain this concept in more detail. The first is my good buddy Chuck Michael, and he replied to an ad I placed in the LA Times. And he was actually my third person that I got involved, but I'm starting with him because it's an interesting story. And so he had the intention to solve his problem. That he was out looking and searching and seeking for an answer because he needed to solve this problem. So I put an ad in the LA Times. It's a very simple ad. New Japanese company in town looking for distribution. $25 required for information. Call Dave. And I put in my number. That wasn't it, but this is a fake number, as you can well imagine. And then now Chuck was a commercial real estate professional, so his industry in Southern California in 1991 just went phooey. It was just gone. It was nowhere to go. And he had a family of 4 and had a mortgage, car payment, and a huge desire for success. And as the head of the household and the main provider for the family. So he responded to my ad, and we met in my office. And at that time, I had an office next door to Nikken, one of those community type offices that we shared. And he came up there, and we sat down, and I showed him what it was, how it worked, what was required to make it work, what he needed to do, what I would do to help him and support, and where this could go if all this was done very well. Well, absolutely no hesitation on his part. He signed up there, got his product, spent $1,500 worth at that time, and then we made an arrangement to meet the following Monday. And he would line up people for us to go speak with. Now, that we call the ABC method. Chuck would introduce them to me, and I would make the presentation, and then together we'd get them involved, and that was the overall plan. Well, Chuck was a good hour and a half over to 2 hours away from me, so I was hoping that he would line up some good folks, and boy, was I surprised. About 10 to 15 per day for 2+ weeks, and totally unexpected, totally blown away. Needless to say, I was a bit excited, and as I was brand new and he was brand new, and we got results and started to build this group, and this group's still active 32 years later. So go figure, right? Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. So what happened here, and this is the key issue, what happened here was the solution was presented to someone with a problem. Okay? The solution was presented to someone with a problem. He was able to see that solution, think with that solution, imagine the possibilities with that solution. And that is why it worked. No other reason. There was absolutely no other reason why that worked. It was because of those 3 things. Now, let's explore the steps taken to create this and similar results. Now, as a side video, I put this note here, and what's going to happen on the web page, you'll be able to link to a PowerPoint, and you'll be able to get this. Most of these are on daverolf.com, but it's a frequently asked question video. I'm new to this business. How does it work, and how can I make a living kind of goes along with what we're talking about here, just another viewpoint. Okay, so step number 1. Now, this was, in all the research I ever did, this was the most critical step. It's you break it down, what's presented, first started with, what do you need this business to do? In other words, if I'm recruiting somebody, if I'm hiring somebody in my corporation, I want to know where their head's at. What are they thinking about? What do they want? What do they try to produce? So in this, I want to know what they need this to do. And so, and this has to be something that's important. It has to be significant because they've got to put their attention on and work at it. And if it's not important, then you're going to have a little bit of a time. But the most important aspect of knowing how much was everything else comes from this figure. The structure, the volumes, the people, the rank, the time, and the organization. Now, what's really important for you is you need to know what your distributor wants, because you've got to create the plan. They don't know what to do. They're brand new. This is something you need to do. So with Chuck, we sat down, he said $7,000. So the next step, number 2, is, well, okay, Rome wasn't built in a day. What kind of time frame do we have to work in order to make this and build this? Because it does take time. And we'd gone over, the basic idea of what it took. And he says, I got about a 6-month window of savings, and, I have to replace my income within that time frame. So what this did was it created, okay, now I have to figure out in the plan that we're going to present, okay, we've got 6 months. So how intense do we have to go to work? And we know this takes time, and we don't want to get disappointed by reaching somewhere and not having the prize. We want it the other way around. We want to reach the goal with the prize. And we want to be able to determine the amount of activities. We want to be able to determine the effort, what needs to be done, etc. Now, this is just good old-fashioned business stuff. There isn't anything unusual or miraculous or scientific. This is just the way business is done. So as a general rule, I give it a year. So you set that out so at least that you put in a decent amount of effort to get the result. Okay. Step number 3. Next, we needed to see the approximate structure and size of business required. So again, this is one of those things I've been harping on for a long time. Most people that get involved with network marketing have never done it before. They have no idea how to view it, what it looks like, because it doesn't have any physical presence. The only physicality of it is the people that are involved. So we need to draw pictures. It's the same kind of a thing as insurance. They have lots of illustrations, lots of pictures. And so it's really quite easy to do this. At the time, you figure out the rate, you take the amount divided by the rate of pay, and that gives you the volume. And in this particular example, it's 116,000 worth of CV. So today, the CV runs anywhere from 65 to 80%. So there's another figure. So if you want to know what it is in relationship to wholesale, that's how you figure it out. But what's important about doing this is the ability to see and understand exactly what's required to earn this kind of income. Come on, no wishful thinking. I mean, that's just a bunch of hooey-fooey. So you will earn the $7,000 when $116,000 in CV is produced, period. Now, there could be some hooey-fooey about how you get the $116,000. I've seen some pretty miraculous things in my day, but the bottom line is, for most of us, you get that $7,000 check when you create that $116,000. So the reality of doing this then sets the stage for the reality of what needs to be done. Okay, which is number 4. Now, at that time, there was very little data as to, the realistic performance, the numbers that one could use to make a prediction, what was the averages and all that sort of stuff, because we were basically brand new in this country and there was no idea. But today, we have a totally different picture. So as an example, let's say that the average new distributor who is building will do 1,000 CV points per month, and this is pretty accurate to today's marketplace. for somebody that's building. And let's say that an average good producing silver with a good organization that's built properly will do about 10,000 in CV in a month. Now, here's the point. You can strategize on the development of these two, and that's what needs to be done next. They just don't appear. They need to be planned, created, and built by doing the activities that are known to do this. Please mute.
Sorry, Dave. Sorry.
No problem. Thanks. So here's the video you want to watch on this. This is the plan and strategy video, and it goes into more detail about this. But it's the idea of, okay, let's use yesterday's example of the Super Bowl. Do you think that those teams planned and strategized what they were going to do to try and win that game? Absolutely. Well, it's the same thing here. You bring in somebody new in this business and you're helping them build. Well, then take the time to strategize and figure out how it's going to be done. Give that person the benefit of knowledge and experience and track record, and so you create that win-win scenario. Okay, number 5. Now we need to determine how many individuals this is going to take. So therefore, 116,000 divided by, say, an average of 1,000 equals 116 individuals. Or 12 groups of 10 to 15 individuals doing an average of 700 to 1,000 CV per month to earn this kind, the $7,000. Just in looking at the overall basic. So this seems very realistic today, but let me tell you that anything can happen. I mean, it depends on your intention and your work ethics, really. So what we're doing here is breaking down the goal, the big goal, into manageable bite-sized pieces that can easily be created. And then to reach your goal, you just keep repeating. So if the goal was you need to find 3 people, then first you got to find 1. So once you find 1, then go find 2. Once you find 2, then go find 2. It's just repeating the same activity, but make it simple so it doesn't overwhelm you and you can actually get the job done, because that's how the business works. Step number 6. So this part would be define the game that's going to be played, and that's the Nikken plan. That's the direct to royal, with silver being the key primary level. And this takes 6,000 points, and this should be done in a month if planned properly and built properly. And we've got other videos that we've seen on that, and so on and so forth. And so this takes 6,000, and it should be done in a month, planned properly. It's this level that the leadership bonus per program starts. And let me explain this. So here's the benefit of ranking, and this is really, really important. At silver, you get paid 2 levels below you of qualified silvers. Okay, so you got to get to silver, we know that, but the benefit of it is to be paid on the 2 levels below you. So obviously the development there. For gold, it's 3. For platinum, it's 4. For diamond, it's 5, and for royal diamond, it's 6. So what we want to understand is how this strategy of what we're going to build is going to be done, and what game are we going to play. And again, today that's really important. So rank means nothing if there's nobody there, period. Just means nothing. All right, so now the numbers required for this example. Now let's look at our numbers again, and of needing this 116 people and about $1,000 and a combination of structure utilizing the Nikken plan and our game. And so we'll start with the idea of sponsoring as many as you possibly can. So my first thing to anybody that's going to play is let's go out, create a list, and see who we can talk to. Now, what are we looking for ultimately are the 3 key people. And that's the job. We're going to see what that looks like. But a goal 7,000, CV 116, average volume 700 to 1,000, average group 10,000, 116 individuals, 10 to 12 silver groups, up to 15 per group. Okay, so that's the general idea. Now, let's look at the picture. Okay, so in the picture here, and this is what it might look like. Here you are, and then you go on your level 1 and get 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Well, what's going to be in that group? Well, you're going to have in that group, if they all reach silver, about each one's going to have 5, 6, 10 customers and a number of directs and a number of executives, and everybody's doing the same thing. Okay, everybody's doing the same thing. But what gets interesting is when number 1 repeats that and he gets his 3, which is A, B, C. So that'd be the first direction to go here. So you find number 1, and then with number 1, you help him get A, B, and C. Now, what's he going to learn about this? Well, he's going to learn that with his number A is to teach that guy to do the same thing. And you're going to make sure that happens. But here's a picture of a group of 12 potentially silver distributors. This could be a picture of a group of just 12 distributors. Any way you want to look at it, but what's really important for the person that you're helping to build here, what they see is the potential of the structure and the numbers and what it's really going to take to get the job done. Okay, and it's not difficult, it's just, understanding where to work. So you are here and you help this guy. Once you get him, he helps this guy, and this guy. Once this guy comes in, and really it's just a series of each individual doing one simple thing, finding one person to help. And then once they've done that, then finding number 2 and finding number 3. Okay. When you look at the picture on the previous page, then you can visualize a possible structure solution for the goal you want to reach. And it may end up like this, and it may look completely different. Again, it just depends on who's working, where you're working, how you're working. But the basic purpose of doing this is to establish the strategy and planning necessary to build an organization that continues to grow and creates volume month after month after month. And now you should begin to see also the importance of the direction you want to build and how you move up the Nikken plan to reach each of the further down into your organization that you help build. And also you will see that each new level is created primarily by the group on the previous level up above. So your third level is built by primarily the second level people in your organization. And they probably got help from you, your first level, and yourself, and of course that's the way it's supposed to be. But again, here's an important aspect. Your visualization, your imagination changes and alters what exists today. So it doesn't exist today, but your imagination can put it out there so that you can create it. And that's how this particular business works. But it's how everything else works too. Okay, so now let's look at what has to be built. So now we have a good idea. This person has to become a platinum, and they'll be paid to the 4th level. And in order to be paid to the 4th level, we have to have people on the 4th level. And that's really important. So part of the direction we're going is down there. And what's really important to see also, and if I'll just flip back here just to momentarily to this picture here, is when the person sees that this is what's going to take to get their prize, then they don't stop here. They continue to build here, continue to build here, and continue to push. And everybody's on the same page, so everybody gets to see the same message. Okay. So now, here's the first step. We've got to find the first key partner. Now you may have already got the partner, and that's great. And what we're going to do is we're going to set up a time when we're going to meet and we're going to strategize what we do. But everything starts here. And while you're looking for number 1, you're going to find customers, you're going to get directs, executives, but you'll really know when you have found your first key partner is they'll be hungry and want to go after what they want, and we'll start doing what you started doing and take on the basic steps that have been outlined above. So at this point in time, then now we've got to go into some other stuff that's very important. And this is where we'd look at, well, how are you going to find these key partners, number 1? From experience, I might suggest that you create a list of people and and then with your sponsor, you go over that list. And here, this is really important. And the control that you put in there, they don't know what to do necessarily. So you want to make sure that they understand that this is a team effort and that together you're going to figure out which way to go. So you want to create 3 lists. 1 is the business potential and their needs. 2 is the product potential and the needs there. And 3 is those that like to help. Now, you then also want to create your story and approach. And by this, I mean, how are you going to approach each group? I mean, this is critical because, again, people get tongue-tied. They don't know what to say. They've never done this before, and so on and so forth. Now, in this particular element, what I highly recommend you do is watch the video creating your story and then download the PDF of my story as an example. And basically, it's just an outline of how I created the story. And then you practice. You know, this reminds me of my sponsor. He took his daughter's dolls and put them on a couch, and he made presentations to him all the time. And he became a great presenter. So, but understand, if we go back to the beginning, what the job is. Your job is to present a solution. You've got to find the problem, but if you don't know how to present the solution, then it's kind of a little bit of a waste of time. Okay. So I put together a list of about 15 names. That's how I started. And I thought that I thought who might be interested. I had my story. I'd gone, if you've read it, I went broke and in another business, and I was kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. And I got approached by this company, and I jumped in with both feet right away because I had a problem. I needed to solve it. Now, before I would get into my story with somebody else, I need to find out from the person that I'm talking to what their situation is. Do they have a problem that needs to be solved? And again, I found a lot of times that the Nikken community and the Nikken distributors, they led with the company, they led with the product, and they didn't find out what other people needed and wanted. They were kind of hoping that there would be this match. And then from that, all kinds of ideas came about how people are attracted to this business, attracted to you, et cetera, et cetera. But the bottom line is you simply have to ask. And that's what I found. So here's another video to watch. It's, what to say to get started. And speaking about Nikken, it's a good video on that. But let's get into another case study here because this is important because this really gets into this. Now, Howard was not on my original list. He was a business partner in the deal that went south. And just before I got involved with Nikken, and he'd worked with me in another business and done really well. And so before I contacted him, he was on my chicken list, so to speak. I wanted to prove that this was viable and worked. So I helped George, my first distributor. We got some great success. We created, the 4 of us went silver that second month. I made some money, and so I put Howard, I called him up and just to see what was going on. And he said, well, I'm in between jobs and nothing's showing up that I want to get involved with. And so I said to Howard, I think I found the goose that laid the golden egg. And of course, I knew that statement would trigger his thought process. And so he said, well, what is it? My favorite. What is it? What is it? And we got into this wonderful conversation, which ended up with his willingness to try the product. This is important, his willingness to try the product. And so I sent him a mattress pad because I've got some product to build my business. And 2 days later, after he received the product, he called me up and said, I don't know what you got, but I'm in. Now, I went, oh my God. So I said, what the heck happened? And he said, well, I never told you this before, but I have a terrible time sleeping. And I had the best 2 night sleeps I've had in ages. So I figured, with what we talked about and the potential, if half the population having a hard time sleeping, this is a no-brainer. Let's do it. Let's go to work here. Now, we were on the same page, which was really important about, doing something, knowing what needed to be done, and so it was a piece of cake. And so then we were able to plan and strategize. And again, that collaboration, that together communication of what to do, who to talk to, how we're doing to do it, where we're the president, all of that kind of stuff. And again, the key here, the situation with Howard was it boiled down to doing something worthwhile, number one, where he could make a ton of money for him. That was important. And of course, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. And what was presented was a solution, and it was validated and followed by the product result. So a key application there. So then naturally the next step was to help him build and work as a team. He and I strategize what we can do, and then we can talk with, or who we can talk with, plan out doing the activities, find the key people, build his business as deep as we can, etc., etc. Now, the idea with this step with anybody is that you're working together as a team. See, you need to understand who's doing the work, but both of you need to work on the same page moving forward. And whatever goes underneath the person that you're involved with, and in this case it was Howard, was also on my team and in my business. So the benefit of this was and this applies to everyone, of course. So here's what went down. So I sponsored Howard, and because he saw the potential, and et cetera, et cetera. And we just simply repeated what we did with George. You've seen this picture before. So Howard ran into this guy by the name of John Hopley. Now, John was an older gentleman, but he was a networker, and he understood kind of what was going on, and he had a good friend, Rusty, and Rusty lived in Arizona and Scottsdale, and we got her involved and met many trips to help build her business in Scottsdale, Arizona. But she ran into this guy and knew a guy down in Hawaii by the name of Marvin. Marvin went absolutely goo-goo gaga over this. And we just flooded Hawaii with product. We had the governor of Hawaii on the product, et cetera, et cetera. It was a lot of fun in building this particular team. But here was the idea. I would have never known Marvin. And again, we created 4 new silvers in the I think it was the second month of building once he got started. And he had a team, and then he just repeated that. He got the second, his second person, his third person, so on and so forth. So once you have your first group at silver or above with a nice size group underneath you, as this picture represents on the right side, now you got a story. Now you've got something you can tell somebody else. Now you've got proof. Now you've got validation that this works. Now you can move on to the next leg and build the second leg. And this is why I've talked about this so many times, of building one leg at a time. And this is a business of duplication. So again, it's very important. So here, you want to check out this video, and it's what you need to know about the Nikken compensation plan. And I've created a number of videos on that, but that's a specific one that I felt would be relevant to this picture. Okay. So step 9, and again, we're talking still about number 2 here, is you now have a successful story, and that's what I used with Howard. I told him what we did with George, so that got him, he was easier about how to go about doing it. Here's an important point. The person that you're talking to that's never done this has no way to really think and strategize of, well, okay, so I got to put together a list. I got to figure out who's going to do it. We're going to sponsor the first guy. You're going to come in and help underneath. I'm going to go in and help on it. They don't have that. That comes with experience. So when you have a story to tell, the business is built by telling stories. Okay? So I had a story with George, so I could tell Howard what that story was. And actually, this is what happened with Chuck. I had the Howard story and the George story, which I told Chuck. And again, it just keeps going on. But here's the important part here is keep your eye on the bottom of your structure. Because this is the weakest link. It's the new people. Because in order for them to survive, they need to have people underneath them. It's very important. So you teach it, you practice it, you watch it. Otherwise, your organization will shrink and it'll stop growing. And we'll deal with that in another lesson somewhere down the road. But here, the video that you want to watch is the Master Day live event, which was recorded by Nikken. It's not on my website, but it's on the Nikken website. It's a good video to watch for that purpose. Okay, so here's what was done with Chuck, who we started with, and he was actually the third guy. George was first, Howard was second, then ran the ad, found Chuck, and he went about it really differently. Because of the number of people that he brought to the picnic, we found 3 people right away. And so it was either the second or the third month, I'm not sure, I can't remember, I couldn't find the actual document, but All three of them went silver, and he did what we called at that time the 60K Club in 1 month, and that was really exciting. And then his legs grew, and long story with Chuck, but anyway, here's a couple of other videos that pertain to this aspect of what we did. And it's FAQ number 4, how do I start to plan to get my Nikken business started, and the 90-day plan and strategy. And they'll help you with this. The way we did with Chuck was a little bit different than the other two, but the end result was the same. So again, you're going to run into different scenarios. You want to know and have different ways of doing it. And again, here was the idea. I sponsored Chuck because he needed to make an income, and he saw the potential and worked, wanted to go after it. He had a ton of people, and the rest, as we say, is history. So in this business, success is learned behavior, and results come about by doing the activities, period. And it's a good idea to have examples so that you can then visualize and strategize how you're going to go about doing it. But the key is you got to get out there and do that. So thanks very much for being on the presentation today. I'm going to stop the share here, and then we will get into our usual Q&A. And again, thanks for being on, and see you on the next episode of the Smart Networker.